Welcome, I'm Bill Wake. We're here working on a set of tools for dulcimer players, and we're focused right now on a chord chart. We've got the basic background shape drawn, but we want to start adding chords. So here we go. All right, now we left off, we have the notion of a fret, well, kind of two notions now. We have a fret type. Let's go look at that. You can be the nut, which is the furthest left fret, and the strings come over it, so it's kind of part of the tuning system in a way. You can have a regular fret. You can have a half fret, which it's kind of like black keys on a piano, basically, and we draw them with a dotted line. And then you can have an octave fret, which is showing where you've completed one octave and you're starting the next one. And we used to have the notion of a blank fret. I think we're going to drop that. But then we added this idea of a fret as broadening that. It's going to have the index, so it knows which position it's in. It's going to have a name, which we display on top, and it's going to have a fret type. So this lets us set up different kinds of dulcimers. There's, chromatic has all the notes. Diatonic has only the white keys on a piano, as it were, and then there are plus frets that you can add in to the diatonic to get it kind of halfway to chromatic. Well, with this, I think we still have this up. Yeah, let's see. Okay, so there's the nut, there's a regular fret, a half fret, and the octave fret, and you can see a blank fret. Well, you can't see it, but it's there, or it was. Okay, and the fret names up at the top, so it tells how many chromatic steps are you from the note, and we will we want to make it so that these names so this is a diatonic dulcimer with a couple added frets. We want to make it so these names only show up where there is a fret, and they show up with the diatonic count. So 1, 1.5, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6.5, 7, and 6 plus will be fine for 6.5. All right, and what the change we're going to make is instead of having an array of frets that know their indexes and always draw things, including blanks, which is what we're doing now with the fret types. We're going to let each one be more self-describing in terms of a fret. So I'm the 0 fret, I'm the nut, and my name is 0. And I'm a regular fret, and my name is 1, and so on. And now the blank frets are just noticeable by omission. Okay. I did tweak this last night. We had left out one of these big frets, so I squeezed that back in, and the numbering makes sense now. 12 chromatic steps to the octave. We're not quite going to the second octave there. All right. Well, I think what we just need to do is use these now. Let's see, I lost my chat window. Hang on. Welcome, Mudshark. So we pass them in, I believe. Yeah, we pass them in, but fretboard totally ignores the frets at this point. So let's make sure that's true. Everybody's using fret styles, and we're back around. Okay. So this is going to come in here. So, well, two places, but draw frets in particular. Here's one. We're walking through the fret types. So let's walk through the frets. Okay, which is a field on the struct. So we're okay to have it. Now fret path, oh, okay. Okay, so fret style of fret. We're going to have to ask it for the style. Is that really the only change for this? Fret has no member style. Oh, it's type. Yeah, fret style for the type of fret it is. All right, and well, we're walking through all of them. It's going to be a little off. Let's take a look. Yeah, so we don't have those wide spaces we used to have. All right, and that's because we're taking the distance. Well, here we accumulate the distance as we go by however many things we show. I think instead we want to change x to be min x plus the index of the fret. So where is x used there? Okay, so let's move this down. It's the min x plus fret dot index times fret distance, and then this can be a let inside the loop because we don't need to adjust it anymore. And that's actually kind of the critical change that makes these blanks not needed. So sure. All right, so calculate the x based on what the index is, which tells us where it is located chromatically. So go down here. So fret 0 is on the far left. The fret called 1 is at chromatic position 2. So let's see if that did what it should. And I'm expecting that to be correct. Okay, yeah, so that looks like it did. All right, so we haven't dealt with the symbols, but the frets are now back to being chromatic. So that's a whole step, half, 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 whole, whole, half, 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 whole, half, 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 three, whole, three. And this should be the 6.5, and this should be the 1.5. All right, now let's go to the symbols. Okay, so somewhere here we draw the symbols of fret indices. Okay. And yeah, it's kind of the same. So we've got the index. Well, let's take fret in frets. Okay, and define the index as fret.index. Now, I don't know if this types. And then this, instead of being the index, should be fret.name. All right, because that's the 1 plus and all that stuff. The musical name of it. All right, and the point is CG float times rect.width. Well, we don't. I guess yeah, we do still want index here. That okay. I think that's all right. Oh yeah, okay, 0, 1, 1 plus 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6.5, 7, 8, 8.5, 9, 10. That is how it should look. I mean, the font's maybe a little small. I think we can just tweak it. Let's do a definition. Let font size equal 12 instead of 10. And then I think this is font size divided by 2. I should be making sure I'm in the right domain. Not gonna complain. All right, let's try that and see if we can get a little bigger. I don't know, from an accessibility point of view, I guess if you got to expand too much, you're going to have to scroll horizontally on that grid view or the fretboard. Yeah, I wondered about that. Oh no. Well, I think maybe our font size should be. The CG float stuff's probably what's throwing it off. Okay, that looks good. Still looks like they're centered, which is what we're after. So cool. All right, so we're using use fret info to describe frets and draw frets and symbols. Right. I forget what I called it. Something in strings and notes. Okay, so the next thing is we want to draw notes on there. So I'd like to do well, if I'm doing the D chord, say, the notes in the D are 0, 2, and 4, and then 7, 9, and 11 as it repeats. What I'd like to do is draw a circle at the intersection of the fret and the string where the root of the chord is, which is the name of the chord is D. And that's the top string and the bottom string here are that case. Then the F sharp, I'd like to draw a triangle. So a little triangle here and a little triangle here. And then for A, I'd like to draw a square here. And then if we do seventh chords, I'll have a little circle seventh or something like that to draw. But the question is like, what chord, what name? And I think now we've done kind of what we can generically on the fret drawing or the fretboard drawing. But to place those dots, we have to go into the music theory. So in a way, I feel happier to be doing that because it's the domain we're after, and it's much more easy to test drive that domain. The stuff we were doing in the drawing, there's a fair bit of calculations going on there, as we multiplied and added and this and that, that are kind of just bare without tests. We're relying on a visual test. I think we'll notice it's pretty prominent on this screen, but as we get more features on this thing, we got 8 now. You could easily imagine it growing to double that, and that's a lot of calculations that you might not look at every screen every time you run the thing. All right, but first we got to do a music theory lesson. Okay, multi-level education here. All right, so the first keyboard on the left there is the plain keyboard, and it's just a piano keyboard, 2 octaves, showing the white and black keys on a piano. If you play all white keys, you're playing a diatonic scale. If you play white and black, you're playing a chromatic scale. All right, and then there are various other kinds of scales that aren't worth our discussion today, but we'll start here. All right, now a chord is going to be 3 notes, and at least the kind we're talking about, it's called the first, third, and fifth of the scale. So the C scale starts on the leftmost C, that first red dot there, and then D, E, F, G, A, B, and it wraps around to C when it gets back to the repeating 2 black key pattern there. All right, so the white keys represent those simple notes, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, and the black keys would be sharps or flats, C, C sharp, D, D sharp, E, F, F sharp, G. Okay, now, so a chord, you basically skip letters. So C, yes, D, no, E, yes, F, no, G, yes. So C, E, G, and in the C major key, C chord is those 3 notes shown. Okay, now there's a pattern to it, and if I did an F chord, which is also only on the white keys in the key of C, it would be that note between the last 2 is the F, where the first group of 3 black keys starts, and then skip 1 A in there, and then skip 1 and then C again. So F A C is also a major chord. All right, the pattern for a major chord is if I start on some note, I go up 1, 2, 3, 4 to the middle note, and then up to 5, 6, 7 from the start point to get to the top note. And every major chord is going to be that. It's going to have, well, you can either count 4 or count 3. There are 3 half steps between them, and the 4th note is going to be the right one. So if I started on A flat, which is in the middle of those group of 3 black keys, 1, 2, 3, 4, the middle note of the chord is going to be on the C, which is the white key just to the left of the 2 black keys. I don't have a pointer for some reason, but it's a white key, and then go up to the second of those black keys, and it's that one is there. And if you counted out the distance of how many half steps, it would still be N plus 4 and N plus 7. Okay, so a minor chord flats the 3rd, so it moves it down 1. So you can see on the left, middle left is C minor, and it's got C and G the same, but E is E flat instead. And so the pattern is N plus 3 and N plus 7. All right, the 7 stays the same because it's the same distance from the first note to the last note of the chord, but the middle one changed. All right, if I go down to the next one, C diminished, that's a different kind of chord. It's unusual to hear, but it's part of a 7th chord too, so we'll get into that. But it's an unusual chord, but it's a valid chord, and this one actually flats the 5th note too. So the first note's the same because that's always the name of the chord. The flatted 3rd to E flat, the flatted 5th to G flat, which is also F sharp. Okay, and that has a very tense sound to it. If you play a C diminished and you go to a B major, you'll feel the relief of it, Okay, so a slightly different numeric pattern, and then the C7th chord. Okay, so we had 1, 3, 5 notes. Now we're adding the 7th note of the scale, and in the case of this kind of chord, it's a flat 7th. So it's the B flat up there on the black key, and the pattern. Well, I circled the note, the note on the 5th note of the scale, the 3rd circle, because we have a dulcimer with 3 strings and we can't play 4 notes at the same time. So the name of the chord, the C, the root, that's kind of important because that tells you what kind of chord it is. The E, the second one in there, is important because if it's major, if it's going to sound like major, it's got to have that regular E there. And if it's going to sound like it's minor, it's got to have that flatted E. So The third is important so we know if it's major or minor. Okay. The fifth is just kind of hanging out. I mean, it's the same between C, C minor, C7, C minor 7. You know, so it's the least important note as far as determining what the chord is. So we leave that one out on the dulcimer almost always. And then we have to play the seventh or it's not a seventh chord. So we do that. So so how do you get 4 notes into a 3-string instrument? Well, you leave one out. Okay, there's also a C minor 7th chord. And basically it's take the C minor chord and put that same flat 7th on there. So the B flat is the same. There's also another kind of 7th called a major 7th. And that's really a jazz chord more than anything you'll hear in a folk song usually. So that would be to not have the flat, to just have the B. And if you kind of think about wrapping around, B and C are basically next to each other, only a half step apart, and it's going to sound like a real clash when you hear it, and it sounds very jazzy. You know, our ears have grown used to it. You know, I mean, it probably still it's part of the reason some people don't like jazz. You know, the chords just sound too dissonant or something. But you know, for our purposes, we'll mostly have the flat 7th. And so if I say what chords am I going to show, well, I can't show them all because on a diatonic dulcimer, if I have, well, let's take the G chord, or yeah, let's take the G chord, G, B, D. Okay, so shift this up to start on that last dot of the C chord, and that's G, B, D, and that I can have on my dulcimer, but my dulcimer, if I'm tuned D-A-D, I don't have a B flat handy. Well, if I have a 1.5 note, that's why the 1.5 is there, to give you a B flat. So the old dulcimers that didn't have the half notes couldn't play a G minor chord in D-A-D tuning because they don't have that half that flat B. Okay. I mean, some of these you can kind of find them somewhere, so you can maybe play the chord in one position but not all over the fretboard. But that's that. Okay. Now the thing about chords, you got those notes C, E, G. We don't care. Like if it came out E, G, C with the same 3 notes, we're going to treat them as a set of notes. You know, we're not going to care about which one's low and which one's high. They sound a little different, but they have a stronger sense of being the same as the C in various, they call them inversions. So if I moved the C note, the starting point, up the octave to next to those 2 black keys, I would have the E on the first note, the G, and then the C. That's called the first inversion. I move one note from the bottom to the top. If I move the E up as well, then I would have the second inversion. Okay. There's no third inversion on a regular chord, but a 7th chord can have a third inversion. So regardless of where you pick, you know, if you have those 3 different notes, C, E, and G, you'll have a C chord as far as we're concerned. And if you have C, E minor, or E flat and G, we'll have a C minor chord as far as we're concerned, regardless of where you found them. All right. I don't know, any... no sustained 11. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you can keep going, right? You can go C7, you can go C9, you can go C11. If you go C13, you kind of wrapped around, so you're getting a little bit, it's like back to the start. And, you know, every one of those 7ths, 9ths, 11ths can be flatted, or they could be sharped too. I mean, there's a kind of chord called a C augmented chord. Instead of like the C chord goes up 4 and then up 3 more to get 7, an augmented chord will go up 4 and then it'll go up 4 more. And again, it's not a chord you hear in most folk music. You hear it some in jazz. It's sometimes used as kind of an advanced harmonic thing in some classical stuff maybe, but not an everyday chord. It just sounds like, whoa, too much. What's going on? All right, so the point of this is, though, for us to place the chords on our dulcimer, we're going to have to find a root of the chord, and we have to figure out what the notes are. And so this pattern, go up 4, you know, go up 4, then go up 7 for a major chord, If we know we're starting on a D, we go up 4, it gets us to an F sharp. We go up 3 more, it gets us to an A. And D, F sharp, A are the notes we're going to look for. And that's how we know what to show on the, which notes to highlight how. Okay. So a D chord, we're going to find that first D, and I can tell we're going to be squeezed on space, but that's okay. All right, play the 5th an octave down. Yeah, there's the 5th an octave down is actually a very, I learned it as the pointer method. You point to the root of the chord, it's a C chord, and then the 5th you put where your pinky is the G, and then your thumb skips one, goes up to E, and you get the shape of an E, of a C chord, or a G, or an F, or whatever else. Now, as you start using the flats and sharps, you have to find out, like, oh, if I'm in the key of D flat, I'm gonna have to use D. I'm gonna point to D flat, and then my thumb goes up to F, and my pinky's got to go to the A flat, which is up on a black key, and so you have different shapes, sorta. Sometimes you're up a little or down a little, but it's an effective way to find the chords, and so you can you get that oompa, you hit the bass note of the chord, C chord, and go up and play it an octave higher with the 5th on the bass, and boom, chim, it gives you that variety as you go. And if you're playing the beer barrel polka, you'll want that boom chick sound. All right, so where are we going to start? Well, I think one thing is we haven't said anything about tunings yet. And so the tuning is, how do you tune each string? So, if you're playing piano, the C string is always tuned to a C, and the D is always tuned to a D, and it's all very easy. If you're playing a dulcimer, because we have these gaps, some songs need notes in the gaps, but maybe don't need some of the other ones. And so we can tune to a different pattern and get the extra notes that we want where we want them, at least often enough. And so we need to know what note is on a string. We need to know what the string is tuned to. So if it's tuned to D, the 0 is always a D, and the 7 is always a D, an octave higher. Okay. Yeah, we need to verify. So I think we have. Well, one concept is, what are all the notes? C, C sharp, D, E, D sharp, C, C sharp, D, D sharp, E, F, F sharp, G, G sharp, A sharp, B, C, or maybe some flats in there. But I think we can define a rotation that says, if you start the string on A, let's start on D, a D string, then the first position is D, skip a step, because we have a wide gap between 0 and 1 there. And the second position will be E, all right? And we can walk through that piece chromatically. So we have to know where to start, and what note we're after to get there, what fret we're after, I guess, or what position. I'm going to say position for the chromatic frets, where we had 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, no pluses. This is the diatonic ones, where we have the pluses and we have the gaps. And they're kind of, I don't know, everybody grew up calling this a 1 plus. Well, I don't know about grew up, but they call this a 1 plus, but from a function of harmonically, it's more of a 2 minus, but we just had the pluses, so that's the way it goes. All right, so I think let's define the linear notes and make sure, if I tell you to start on some note and go up some number of steps, that you get there. All right, because we know we're going to have to do that to figure out what the mapping is. So, oh dear, let's see. So let's get some tests going. All right, so that was metronome. Let's make a folder for ChordChart. I think these will be different enough. All right, and we'll add. I don't know, will we call this a scale? It's sort of a chromatic scale. Or maybe it's the notes. Or all notes. Scale works best for me, I guess. All right. New file. Yeah, it's really a chromatic scale. Maybe chromatic notes. Yeah, let's try that. I'm all over here. Okay. Tackle this. All right. So, what I want to check. So when we come in, we're going to give it a string name, and we'll give it a position chromatically. I guess that's a thing too, but given a note, yeah, that's a good question. Given a note, what's its chromatic position? Okay, so and I'm just going to say position because we use that a lot. Position of note. And I don't think we're going to do anything async here. Okay, so if I have I guess I'll give it a string. Okay, so if I say, well, I guess I can do this in one line. I'm going to expect that chromatic, don't use that word lots, chromatic notes dot, let's make one. Position of C should be 0. Okay, so I'm kind of saying if you start counting here 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, the first note position is 0 is the C, and we should get it back, and then we'll fix that. B should be, well, 11. I actually think that's correct because there are 12 total, and we got 11 different names. All right, so let's create this chromatic notes thing. And I don't know if it's a struct or what it is, but it's got a function position of note, which is a string, returns us an int. And I might just at least do a type alias on that. Okay, so we'll get a little warning if we start mixing position with other strings, with other ints. So, and let's enforce that here. We'd have to make it a real type if we wanted to really enforce that. But I think because there's so many counts and offsets and this is and that, so I think we got to at least do this. All right, so I'll build this, run this. Oh, he's running there. Okay. Okay, that failed because, oh, I moved the lines. Yeah. Okay, gets -1 back. All right, so I'm going to put the notes in. Let all notes equal. And I'm just going to do the sharps for now. For dulcimer, that's almost always all you need. Okay, C, C sharp, D, E sharp, D sharp, E, F, F sharp, G, G sharp, A sharp, B. Okay, and then let's return all notes, index. Well, first index is fine. And is that something you're gonna get wrong? Well, I'm gonna say we'll do it this way for now. Yeah. Should the user be able to choose what tuning? Absolutely. For me, I mean, I've played plenty in DAD. I know my chords very well there. If you change it to DAA, well, the chords all have different shapes because the notes are in different places, and I don't know them anywhere near as well. I mean, I kind of know there's like a T-shaped one, and then there's sort of an awkward shaped one, and I forget the third. So, you know, that's not in my hands much, if at all. And then we play a lot in DGD, one of my jams, and we almost never use chords. We're playing a different style that's emphasizes the melody string and leaves the other two open. So I have no idea what the chords are there. I mean, I can tell you where the notes are, but not the chords. Okay. So this should pass, and I mean, I think that gets us through the first thing. If given a string, do you know where stuff is? Can you find where the notes are? Okay. That should pass. All right. Then the next thing we want is well, I think it's the fact that I'm going to say steps forward, wrap around. Okay, and so this, how can I make, all right, well, if you have chromatic notes, let's make that the system under test. Okay. Well, I guess the question is, this is for that n plus 4, n plus 7 thing, right? If I tell you a note and an offset, then you should be able to give me either one. I don't know. Let's say position and offset. Okay, so let result equal, let's take set.position, let's take A. All right, so our A chord is A, C sharp, E, and we get to the C sharp by going up 4 steps. So the A major chord goes up 4 steps, then it goes up 3 more. All right, so let's do 4. Well, in music we call them half steps, just to be, I don't even know. I guess the diatonic stuff came first, basically. Solo tuning. We call it noter drone style is probably the name people would use. Although most of the people I'm playing with don't play drone noters. So drone is strings that ring the same notes every time you play. So D and G are always strumming, or you're always playing those. And then the noter, it's a stick of some sort, and you use that in your left hand to position it. Now that's an older style. Most people playing now just use their fingers, but the stick, it lets you do kind of you can do some interesting like slide sounds and stuff with that, and you can also kind of get some weird ways to play half notes if you need them too. So it's a little different, but drone or drone melody or drone noter, that would definitely be a common description of that style, like a bar strap on the guitar. Well, we use that. They call it a capo. It's a kind of a clamping thing, and it basically puts a fake. It basically moves your nut from where it started to where you want it now, and so that's kind of how it puts you in a different key because you're at a different starting point. And now in dulcimer it matters because you have that odd pattern. Whoops. This one. So if I put the noter on, like I've got one wide fret and then narrow, narrow, narrow. If I put the noter in front of 3, right on 3, then I have wide, wide, narrow, narrow, narrow. So it's a totally different scale pattern. Guitar is chromatic, so it has all those half notes, and so you can move it up, 1 half step, 1 whole step, 1.5, 2, 2.5, whatever. Yeah, it definitely changes. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I have one handy, but some of them look like clamps, and they kind of squeeze down like that. Other ones look like a stick, and they've got little ends that move in, and you can rotate a little knob and tighten them. Okay, but in our case, we're going to say A plus 4 half steps, and we expect that to be let's count it out on the piano. If we start at A, well, I can't. Let me go here. I gave myself the tools. So on a piano, starting at A, if I go up 1, 2, 3, 4, well, I've wrapped octaves. Okay, so this is a C sharp in the new octave, but we're not going to care about octaves in the stuff we're doing, so we would wrap it down to this C sharp. Okay, so, and this is position 1. If this is 0, this is 1. So A plus 4 is 1. Now, I don't know which exactly variant is going to be the useful thing for us, but yeah, that should be that. All right, we don't have that yet. Well, this is an int. You're counting. It's not a position, but we get a position back. Okay, and let's just return 0, make the test fail. All right. Then the other thing we're going to do, Oh, and capo, I believe, is the English pronunciation of capo in Italian, which is head. So you're moving the head of the guitar, basically. Okay. Yeah, am I doing this in the right place? Maybe position is its own thing. I'm wondering now. Okay. I'm going to take all notes of, well, position of note plus half steps. All right, but if I do that, it'll blow up. So I have to do mod. And that's, now you find out why everything's 0 based, because mod works, right? Let's do all notes.count. Okay, so there are 12. Letter 0, or position 0 through 11. Okay, that should, oh. Oh, right, we don't want the note, we want the position. Okay. Well, this is an interesting place, I guess, for now. Just because we're green and I've got refactoring I want. I don't know if there's one more test. All right. Well, okay. So, couple things going on. I mean, I'm glad that works, but notice all notes is not coming into this at all, which says to me this is really a function of positions. Given a position and a number of half steps, you should be able to tell me the new position. And so I think our position class needs to grow. You almost could flip it around and make chromatic notes part of this all notes. This is a position given a string. Okay, yeah, let's what do I want to do? Let's take this out momentarily. Let's rename this to position. Okay. Okay, so we can't turn int into position. Okay, but I think our position should know. Well, it should know the position. Okay, so I'm not sure I'm not sure how to call this refactoring, but it's leaving us unstable for a minute here, which maybe I should have migrated it in, but I mean, I think we can keep track of 15 lines, 15 lines of code anyway. All right, so this position with the note of the string, I think this is really an init. Where we're setting the position to whatever that is. Okay, and then this, the position of, all right, well, let's fix the usage of that first. So position of C equals that. This already looks better to me. Position of B equals that. Okay, and then notice these, we don't have the constructor that takes just the int position. Init. You're not going to volunteer that one? Okay. Position of int. And we'll assign self.position is position. Let's try that with 1 equals. All right. Okay, so now these lines are okay, except this is not equatable. So it's a simple class, so let's make this equatable. Okay, so I think our first test is fine. Now, position by itself, Well, let's make this test position of A dot, well, what is, I'm going to say plus 4. Well, we can do that separately. Well, no. Let's take this. Position of A plus 4. The result should be position 1. And then the plus is taking care of the half steps. I guess we put the whole thing in the expect. Okay. And we don't have a plus. Well, that's this. Plus half steps. Let's make that optional. Yields position. And we're going to take position of note. No, it's going to be just position plus half steps divided by all notes that count. That should be mod. Sorry. That should be position of all that. Well, actually, Dulcimer does. Whoops, I keep bringing up the wrong app. If we run, if we look at the scale, so let's take DAD tuning because it's very common, but the regular notes on this are D, E, F sharp, G, A, B, C, D. A normal D major key, that would be C sharp D. It has 2 sharps, F sharp and C sharp. But a D mixolydian has F sharp and C natural, and that's what this has by default. Okay, so if you're playing DAD, and you don't have that 6.5 fret, you're probably playing lots of mixolydian tunes. So I don't know of any pop tunes that are mixolydian, but Old Joe Clark is a very classic old time tune that is mixolydian. And Goodbye Girls, I'm Going to Boston. I don't know. I could probably name them if I weren't thinking about it, but yeah, it's a very natural sound for a dulcimer to play a mixolydian tune. But it also tells you that's kind of why the 6.5 fret got added first, because they wanted to say, why can't I just play a major scale and get my C sharp here where I want it? Because it sounds funny, it sounds modal. The Greeks were into modes before the jazz guys. But yeah, so that's why the 6.5 got added, so you could play major songs without being in a weird position. Now, if you were to tune this to DGD, your scale would be, it would fit naturally with a G scale. G starts at fret 3, and so G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, G only uses regular frets. So if you tune differently, you could get that major key starting in a different place. You could never get it in here without that half fret though, because 0 to 7 is just shaped like a modal. That's the way it goes. Okay, so we're back to reasonable. And I guess position, it's kind of, it's probably not the best domain term. I don't know what that would be. If it would be half steps, or I don't know. But I think the good side of this, besides naming this, well, we have something. So I think if you said, I'm gonna talk about my D string, my first bass string there, and I looked up the position of D, and I get that object, and now if I want to talk about any notes in my scale on my string, I'm going to start from D for counting. So I'm going to do this plus thing. If I'm doing the working my way up on the chord naming, the figuring out the notes there. And so the position would be D for the string, and then up 4 notes, 1, 2, 3, 4 to F sharp. Okay. and that would be implicitly, I don't know if that position 6, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, yeah. You know, and we can find the right note in the chord with this stuff now. So this is a pretty fundamental tool for that. And that's why I wish I had a better name than position, because position, I mean, position's a little overloaded and a little underused for what we're talking about. I think people would probably talk about it, well, I don't hear people talk about it very much in music theory terms, I guess, you know. But, I mean, I hear starting point. If your starting point is D and you count up 4 half steps, you get to the F sharp. That kind of stuff. Well, what we're doing is we're wrapping them here. So if they wind up in the next octave, like our test does, I mean, I kind of chose this because of that. A starts at this position, you go up plus 1, 2, 3, 4. You know, on a keyboard you would keep going up and you'd hit the C sharp in the next octave. With us, we're just keeping track of the notes, the note names almost, not individual notes in different octaves, but just the names. And maybe I should call this note names. That might be more accurate. Yeah, I just hate to lose the notion of position. Yeah, we'll definitely need somebody else, but like we need to figure out where you're going to draw this chord. So if I give you a D chord, D, F sharp, and A, and I say, okay, draw it on the string. Well, you got to know what's the string tuned to, because on the D string, the D would be at fret position 0, and we're only gonna start. Well, we're gonna have to take into account going past the octave when we start drawing, but I'm only gonna do notes that chords that start in the lower octave. So they might reach into this one. You know, if I had a 6.5, 7, 8 is a good chord. You know, it's going to reach into the next octave. And even hitting the 7 reaches into the next octave. So we do need to be able to do stuff without wrapping too. It's why I think there's so many little offsets and indexes and positions and all that for different things. You know, already we have the chromatic note position on the fretboard, the diatonic note position on the fretboard. I haven't treated 1 plus and 6 plus differently, but we may need to at some point. The note name offsets and positions, and then we're going to need the notes combined with the octaves at some point to draw the full chord if it stretches over the octave boundary. So that's 4 right there. And we're not done. You know, there's probably 7 or 8 ways of different things you're counting stuff. And sometimes you're adding stuff according to the diatonic fret positions. And sometimes you're adding them according to the chromatic fret positions. And it's tricky. That's why I'm worried about this name, because I don't know, is it a note position? Maybe. Because I think chromatic position is going to be the one that can reach past the octave. So we'll start with this, a note position. I don't know, note name position? Okay, I think we'll start there. Okay, now let's add one more test. I want to go the other way. If you give me a position I want you to tell me the note name. Okay, so let's just say plus wraps around. All right, and this is nose name for position. And again, this is a very simple class, so we'll start with that. So expect position of 6 dot name is F sharp. All right. Whoops. Note name position. Ugh, so awkward. All right. And then note name. No, we gotta return some junk first. Yeah, maybe the chord shapes are more important. I think we may need it. Yeah, I think we will, because at some point I probably want to say, here's the D chord, D, F sharp, A, and then here are the options. Okay, so I don't think that's going to mess us up too much. Okay, but we'll get that in, and we'll pull this into its own file. Why can't I do this? Come on. Okay, note name position. Might be able to leave off note, I don't know. Okay. And that should all be good. But yeah, I think the chord shapes would be the next thing. Yeah, I mean, I think if we find out we're just never using it, we'll pull it apart. But yeah, I mean, I think there's a symmetry that's nice too. That if you give a note string, you get the position. You give a position, you get the string. We probably should use that symmetry to test it, but that's okay. All right. Now, okay, so if somebody gives us the string name, which they're going to do, we look it up to get the position, the note name position, and then we're going to ask these chords, basically give me a major chord starting at this position. I guess that's what it's going to be. Okay, so let's see, a chord. What's he gonna give? I may be too bottom up here. Let's go up to the top level and say what's coming in. I'm going to tell you this is DAD tuning. Show me, well, what are the chords? So it's going to be, well, the possible chords in this key. Let's ignore the dotted line ones, but here's a D. That's a D major chord. E comes out E minor. F sharp comes out minor. G comes out major. A comes out minor because it's going to use the 6. B comes out minor. Oh, interesting. Okay. C comes out major, but if we did the C sharp, it would come out diminished. So we only get major and minor? That doesn't sound right. Sorry, this is Mixolydian. Somewhere we got to get a diminished chord in here. Is it the F sharp? Maybe F sharp is diminished. F sharp, A. Yeah, okay. F sharp is diminished if you're using the 6. So you got 2, 4, and 6. We're always skipping a note. It gives you F sharp, A, C, but C sharp would be the right for a minor chord. So yeah, we get a diminished. All right, so I want you to tell me what chords should you give me. Boy, and that gets complicated when the other tunings kick in. So that's why I'm looking forward to pain. But if I give you DAD, well, if I just say, tell me the chords with this bass note. The first string is D. The chord is going to be some sort of D chord. And I guess I want you to tell me what kinds, we call them qualities, major or minor. What quality of chord is the first chord? Well, it's a major. What quality is the second chord? It's a minor. And actually, I just want you to tell me what positions to draw, what chromatic positions to draw. Okay, so if you try to put a major chord here, you get E, B, and you want G sharp, but all you got is G. There's a gap there where G sharp would be. Okay, so the E, B, G chord is an E minor chord. You can't get the major chord with this set of frets. Okay. So what's I guess the top level view is, I'll go back to my thing from yesterday. I'm kind of expecting you to show me the fretboard and starting at the first fret, what chords can you get? And then what notes, what positions do they have? What diatonic positions? And then the board, the fretboard again, but this one will highlight 1, 1, 3, well, 1, 3, 5, whatever all the notes are that are possible on this thing. Okay, so we're going to go through some. Well, I guess if you go back to frets, right? I'm gonna tell you the tuning and the frets, and you're gonna tell me what are the chord roots. And then we need to ask the chord system, can you make a chord with this, given these frets? Okay. So I don't know, do we want to do the UI first? I mean, it's more certain to be deriving from the UI because I think, there's less guessing about what functions are in there. I mean, I'm pretty sure I need that n plus 4 n plus 7 thing somewhere, but let's get to that quickly. So I want to draw, let's cut the problem down. Let's say we're only going to draw the first chord on the dulcimer with the first fret given whatever it is, and let's get that to work. Okay, so if I give you the name of the strings and the frets according to that table we did beginning of the day here, you should be able to tell me the root positions of possible starting of notes that could be in the chord. I think that should drive it. Yeah, so let's get a board and a list of root positions that fit this tuning, this fret model. Okay, so where will that live? Well, what would we call that entity? I mean, it's almost like the chord chart, really, right? Given this stuff, start producing chord stuff. And the first thing to know is what are the roots of the chords. Okay. Yeah, so let's call it a chord chart. And we may refine some of this as we go and eliminate some, but I think we'll need to know the roots even if we don't show them separately. You know. All right. So I guess the deal is, given a chord chart, we're going to ask you, given a chord chart, we've got to give it the strings. And actually, it's kind of that. Usually the lowercase d means a higher octave. And the frets. And we're going to ask you for the what's the roots? Let's start there. Okay. And we haven't said what the frets are. Okay. But we'll keep it easy. The frets are I guess we'll look here. I'm just going to take 0, 1, 2. Yeah, let's take that. D, E, F, F sharp. Okay. So that's corresponding to these first 4 diatonic names, and I'm just asking you for the bass notes. Let's do chord chart. Okay. we need an init. That may be funny. Tuning and frets. Okay. All right, that should fail. I should have a better name. A ChordChart knows roots for a tuning and fret pattern. Arrays available notes, one for each string given a specific tuning. Yeah, maybe. I mean, I feel like the notes thing would do it. But we might want to create something. Okay, what's going on here? Oh, yeah, I still have empty stuff. Okay. All right. So tuning a string is weak. I'll start admitting that, but let's... Okay, so hold that stuff. And now, okay, so the base note is tuning dot first. All right, and then we want the note name position. Actually, maybe I want the position of that. Okay, so oh, that's a character, I guess. And then I'm going to take the frets and map them. Okay, so for each fret position, all right, so the fret has this index, which is really the offset. Okay, so I'm going to take do I have to subtract? If it's a D string and a D note, okay, so the index is 0, so let's take base position plus fret dot index fret is $0. Okay, so if it's a D string and I have the first position that's a 0, then it's going to stay the D note. So it's the base position. All right, so that gives us the position relative to the string. Boy. I don't know, somehow I'm coming up weird with these frets. What's their name? I think, okay, yeah, I guess that's right. If somebody comes in with 1.5 and it's index 3 and it's a D string, then it's going to be an F note. Okay. So I think that gets us the position, that gets us our note name. Yeah, okay, that answers the question. What note is that position? I think that's what I asked. What are the roots? Okay, so that gives us a position, and then we're going to say, I want to know the name. Okay, so so if we ask the position, what note name is that, it should give it to us. And that's what we expect to come out, these note names. So, yeah, so we're treating those fret positions, they're really offsets. It's so easy to get off on this. They're the offset from the start of the string to there. So this gives you the note and then the offset, and you add it together and you get the actual note. All right, now one thing says it passed. I think this is just, yeah, that's just old. I don't know why it's not. Let's clear. Let that run again. Okay, so we can produce a list of what are the roots. So that's good, because we're going to print D. Like here, the D chords, I want to be able to say this is D. Okay, I'm going to ask it for, I don't know if I need the D5s, but we didn't talk about them, but I could certainly ask for the Ds, and if there's a D7, I'd like to ask for that. So I need to be able to ask it well, one question is like, do you have the notes to make a D major chord? Or another way to look at it would be, if I tell you the chord offset positions +4, +7, can you tell me if you have those notes? Is that something we ask ChordChart? I guess I'm going to say, do you have... Well, the drawing stuff's going to have to ask some things too, but the question for the linear part here is, do you have major chord? Do you have the notes for a major chord? Or maybe I should look at it as, can you make a major chord here? I don't know. I'm getting balled up. Right. I want to say, what are the chords you have? I guess I want to ask, can you make there's logic in this, I guess, serious logic. Like, can you make a D chord? Well, that means I guess I should ask them starting on fret 0. But the real question is, where can you make a D chord? Or what are the D chords you can make? And that involves knowing, so we're going to talk about the distance diatonically now. Like this one is skipping 1 and then skipping 2, but that 2 could be 3 or 4 steps diachromatically. And I think what it wants to say is, can you make a chord with your root here? What about your third here? What about your fifth here? Now root, the answer is yes, because 0, 0, 2 is a D chord with the root. The third of the chord being here, for a D chord, that doesn't make sense. The F sharp, it's up here. Can I make a D chord up here? Yes. Use me as the third of the chord. You can use this as the fifth, and then this is the fifth, and then 4 is the, oh, that's not right. Oh no, it's this is the third of the chord, the A is the fifth, is right here, and the D is here. So it's an inversion of the chord, different notes on the bottom. But what's the right question? And I guess the trick is I want to sort it by the chord type. So maybe I'm asking, can you make a D chord? Tell me all your D chords that start here. Is it possible to move the root to the middle string to play a chord that's not possible playing the root on the bass string? Yes, in totality, because, well, it's always symmetric, because if you're in DAD, you got a low D and a high D, but you know the D is somewhere at that same position in that sense. But yeah, the middle string, so move the root to the middle string. So the D on the middle string is at 3. So I got to have an F sharp and an A. Well, the F sharp is here and the A is here. Or I could do F sharp here and A here. Both those would be valid D chords with a root on the middle string. So, but there is funniness, right? Because here's 6.5 on the middle string is a G sharp, and there aren't any more G sharps from here down. I guess there's another one at 13.5, up we're not even showing, but that's the only G sharp on the lower half of the fretboard. So if you an E chord, E, G sharp, B, the only way you can do it is put the G sharp in the middle and either the E here and the B here, or the B here and the E here. So there is some asymmetry between the middle and the other strings. And that means I can't just get by with asking about the roots. That's why basically, because you have three notes, there's three inversions. You can have root, third, fifth, or third, fifth, root, or fifth, third, fifth, root, third. Okay, and so as I wrote them in here, 0, 0, 2, 0 is the bass, so this is a D chord with a root on the bass. 2, 3, 4, 3 is a D in the middle string, and 2, 3, 4 is that's a first inversion because that's F sharp going up to it, F sharp D A, and then the 4, 5, 7 puts the A on the bottom, and then what's this in A string? Well, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp. Oh, yeah, the F sharp is 5 on the middle string, and then 7 is the D. So this pattern, take the last note of this one and use it to start this one, and then the last note of this one, start this one. And if you did 7, 7, 9, you're an octave higher than this. So that pattern of rolling the bottom note up to the top and then doing a different inversion, they call this pattern shape an L chord because it's got, kind of like that. And then this is a slant, and this is an extended slant because it's sort of two different slants. And they just roll through that. Okay, here's L, slant, extended slant. At some point, we'd start down like G chord. It actually starts with the extended slant, and then the root one, and then the slant. So the pattern is there. Boy, but how do I articulate in, well, I guess I'm going to use some sort of bucket. The roots, the possible roots are going to form buckets that can have different chords in them or something. I don't know. That's tricky. All right, well, we're due for a break, so we'll take a break, and maybe, we'll come back and figure out what to do from there. All right, 3 or 4 minutes. All right, welcome back. I think what I want to do is I want to say this is not enough to know the roots for a tuning, is it? I mean, I kind of want to say what are all the notes? Yeah, I think I want to say, what are all the notes you can use for the chords? And then I want to list those notes along with the chords that go with them. Okay, so this to me is incomplete. Okay, because we only did one string bass position, but I think what we want to say, right. I think what I would like the answer to this to be is it's kind of got to be a set, but it should be D, E, F sharp, F sharp, but then that's the D string. The high D string is not going to contribute anymore, even though we might iterate through it and add it to the set, but it doesn't contribute anything. And then the A string contributes, so this should really also have A, B, C, and C sharp. So if I'm on the A string, A plus the whole note is B plus a half note is C plus another half note is C sharp. So if I were to list all the chords, they should include these possible roots. Is that enough? And then I think what I want to do is go through I kind of want to start off with D because it's the bass note, the lowest note. I want to go D. What are the D chords? Boy, this doesn't even, maybe this is not the right. Maybe I'm asking the question backwards. I think maybe I should say, I'm going to tell you a note. You tell me if you have any chords that contain that note. No, any chords that have that as the root. Now, where I start, you don't care. After you know if it's possible to play the chord, figure out how. Yeah. Because I think, well, I think there are two valid ways you could do it. So one would be, sorry, go back to this. I could start my list always at C, just because musically we kind of pretend C is the start of the scale for historical reasons, because like why would you call it C? You could have called it A, you know. But the fact is the modes were more common back when they started, and major wasn't as important as it is now. But I could go C, C sharp, D, D, E sharp, F, you know, in the order of the major scale, C major scale on a piano. Or I could go, hey, this is the D string, that's the lowest note. Let's start with D. What about D? You got any Ds? Here they are. You got any D sharps? Here they are. You know, they aren't because there's a wide space here and there are no D sharps. Do you have any E's? Oh yeah, I got E minor and so on. And you can even get one regular E major chord if you go high enough, you know. Use that 6.5. So I think I guess that's what I want to ask is, given this root, I want to know if you have the notes for this type of chord? Do you have the notes for a minor chord? And then go from there to the shapes. I guess I need to know, do you have any, for every kind of chord, and there's only 4 or 5 we're going to do, I should go in and say, here's D on the root. So we'll start everything there. I'm going to go from D to C sharp. And I'm going to say, do you have any major D chords? And you're going to give me back, you're going to say yes. Or maybe you're going to give me back a bunch of them, I don't know. But at least start out saying yes. So I can put that in my list of valid chord names. And then I'm going to say, do you have any D minors? And you're going to go like, not really, I'm diatonic. And then, do you have any D diminished? No. What about D7s? Well, no, I'm diatonic. If I have a 6.5 fret, I have a D7, and I could give you that. So it would depend on the frets. All right, I think that's the right question. I don't know, I'm bouncing around. But we'll decide if we need that other one momentarily. But I guess if knows whether we have chords of that root. Okay, so if I ask set equals ChordChart, D-A-D, and I'll give it those frets. Let's move this up. I'm going to call it short frets. Okay. Can I answer that question? All right, I guess the question I want to know is set dot has major starting on D. Is that enough? So that's D, F sharp, A. And the answer should be yes. Now, it's tricky, okay, because let's say I only had a 2-string dulcimer, D, E, F sharp, D, E, F, F sharp, A, B, C, C sharp. Okay, that's fine. If I say, do I have D, F sharp, A, I have a D here, an F sharp here, and an A here. But I've only got 2 strings, so I can't play both the D and the F sharp with the with those 2 strings. Or I'm trying to play both the D and the F sharp on the first string. So that's not an easy question. Might need the duplication. Yeah. I mean, honestly, I might need the chords. Like, can you play that chord? Show me. Here's 002. Right, it can't be 2 notes on the same string. So it's got to be, well, what I don't know is for the DAD, they have these 3 well-known shapes: L, slant, extended slant, for all the major and minor chords. But I don't know. Every tuning has its own variation because it's moving the notes somewhere, so they're going to be further or closer. And I don't know that we can name those patterns for all the tunings that are possible, especially if we let you enter your own tunings, because I mean there's gobs. I mean, I regularly play with 6 or 8, and I also own a baritone dulcimer that's half an octave lower, so there's another 6 or 8 that might occur. I know of at least another 6 or 8 I don't use, and I suspect there are others out there, so I don't know what I want here. Well, I don't know if I'm not sure if it's an easy step. I mean, the other thing I could ask for is major chords for D, and that equals, some list. That would be the 002, 200, 234, 457, all those. And then I would assert that its count equals 6, say. Okay, so that's D chords starting somewhere before fret, less than fret 7. Okay, and there might be 6 of those. Okay, and then we could go into what those are, or we could project down and say, do you have any, right? And that just says the count's greater than 0. Do you know you have a D chord? But I don't think you can answer that question without, like you said, knowing that you have 3 strings, that you have the 3 notes on 3 separate strings. So you would have to kind of like it's almost like an existence proof. You know, I claim I can play this, but you kind of want to say, well, show me how, you know. Now, all I need for the name, do I want to display D major as being one of my chord sets? Well, if has major says true, yes. And has major's implementation is count greater than 0, you know. I don't think he has a shortcut count, because clearly doing the notes like this wouldn't do it. But counting them all up sure seems hard. I guess if I found all the D's, yeah, if I found all the D's, a D chord has to have a D in it, right? So if I found all the D's and said, form a major chord starting on this note, I guess he could have more than one. I'm just looking for a way to project down into like some question I can answer easily that I care about. Like, what are your D major chords? That I care about, but that's a harder problem. So instead, I guess I'm thinking if I go and ask it, give me all the chords. Well, I guess I'm saying give me all your major chords for D. Could I cut down the strings? So yeah, I'm just kind of trying to find ways to split this thing. I mean, one way would be can I answer the question of do I have these notes? I could answer the question, do I have these notes? I mean, that's kind of what this answers. Given DAD, what possible notes could you play? I guess I could move up to what are the thirds you could do. So can you play D F sharp? No. You can't do much of anything. I guess C sharp to E, C to E and C sharp to E are both a third. One's major, one's minor. B to D is the third. Yeah, so there are 3 different thirds you could play. Maybe what I should know is for a given string, what are the notes you can play? And maybe that's a better question. I don't know. I'm trying to track what's going through my head. It's like I'm glancing at the clock. 45 minutes. What can we do? You know, but maybe that's the starting point. Instead of knows roots for a tuning, I should be able to tell you in DAD tuning for the first string, you can play these 4 notes. For the second string, you can play these 4 notes. For the third string, you can play these 4 notes without worrying about octaves. And then it becomes a question of, can I pick D F sharp, and A from those 3 strings. Yeah, could you form this chord return a no or probably? Well, that would be doable, right? That would be doable from this information. You know, we could say, yes, you could play a D chord, D, F sharp, A. We got all those notes in our dulcimer, without committing that we know which string's going to play which thing. And so like that E chord, there's only one G sharp. It's up at 6.5 on the middle string. The E, you got an E down on fret 1 and a G sharp up at 6.5. Like, I can't stretch from 1 to 6.5. I mean, I've known a couple people who do, but I have average hands at best, you know, and they aren't going to reach that. My first piano teacher, her teacher's teacher was Rachmaninoff, who, if you know classical music, he plays these things with huge chords. And she told me about when she was a young girl, her teacher took her to a concert to see him. And what she realized was he had these massive hands. And that's how come he can, you know, tell you to play a chord that reaches 1.5 octaves or 2 octaves. He could do it, you know. The rest of us, that's tricky, and we have ways to fake it, but, you know, that's not quite the same as doing it. Maybe is a chord possible? Yeah. Maybe a lying fact of this thing would be enough. Okay, let's do that. That's in our range. But I do think the okay, yeah, let's do that. We'll refine it. So I think the first version is take all the notes that this dulcimer can generate. Do they overlap the chord notes for D? And that's reasonable. And that gives you an answer, but it's not a full answer. And I think the next version could be, can you find one of each of these notes on the other strings, you know? So can you find a D on some string, an F sharp on a different string, and an A on a different string? I don't care which one's first, whatever. That would be more accurate. And then if we said, okay, can you find those notes, and are they close enough to each other that a human hand can reach them, at least the average human hand? That would be the answer we're after. Okay, so let's do this. So this is not roots, this is notes. That's actually better. ChordChart dot, and let's rename this notes. Now, NoteNamePosition tuning dot first. Except, why is this working? Is it working? That's my question. Yeah. How did it get the A, B, C, D, C, C sharp in here? I don't get that. Did he really run? If you can't play all notes, you can just play the ones you have available. That would be a power chord. Yeah, so power chords, that's, so I mentioned on this chart I had D5 here. Because it's tuned up a fifth and then up an octave, D, A, D is a D5 power chord. So if you're backing somebody up, especially if you got a bass dulcimer, you could just play the vertical, you know, just cover that fret and play a D. You get D, A, D. Cover fret 3, you get a G, G, D, G. Cover fret 4, you get an A major. Well, an A5, A power chord, A, E, A. It doesn't have a middle note. It doesn't have the third. That's why they call it a 5, because it skips the third. So you can't tell if it's major or minor. So you don't even have to worry about major or minor. You just say, do I have this note? Play an E minor chord. E minor with a power chord. I'll just play an E power chord. Don't worry about the whether the G is there or not. So yeah, definitely a possibility. Okay, this one failed. Good. At least I want it to. Let me, yeah. I gotta do this. Too lazy to look up ignore again. Okay, so this has notes. Bass position note name tuning dot first. Right. So let's return. Let's let middle position equal note name position string tuning. Can I say sub? On. I don't know if I have to cast it to a string. Subscript is unavailable. Explicitly marked unavailable. Okay. Let's let tuning notes equal tuning dot split. No. Can I do string.index? I don't remember how to get string.indexes. Oh, I cast it to an array, don't I? Is that the deal? I'm not going to worry about sharps and flats yet. Array subtuning. Okay. We'll map them. Okay, not the best, but okay. Okay, I don't know. I almost want to say plus. find if that's better or not better. Okay, append. What do you do with set stud? Form union. Okay. Okay. And this is a set of that. Okay, so I'm not efficient here or anything, but I think we can. So I'm saying we're going to turn the tuning into a separate strings, and I'm going to use each one of those for its find out its starting position, and then we'll do the same kind of map across, and then we'll union all those into one big set, and then at the end we will compare to a set of these notes. Okay. It's supposed to pass, if that's not clear. Oh, my lowercase d is going to kill me. Sorry. I don't know if I'll blow up on modulo calculations or indexing in the notes. Yeah. Yep. Okay, let's go back here. String uppercased. Okay. Right, let's get these things into one list. So we'll map these to, given the string, to note name position of $0. Okay. And then given that, we're going to do another map. To FretType. Oh, that's a little tricky. Okay, so base position, let's say position in this. What is this? Okay, so if I map position, and this is a sort of a sequential to functional refactoring, or sequential to pipeline, I guess. We're going to take the position plus index, that's the fret index there, and let's break that up to make it a little more sensible. Okay, and then the result of this is an array, I think. Array of strings. Okay. So we need to reduce this. I'm not sure if we can do that in one. Well, yeah, flat map's good. What do we get out of flat map? An array of string? Right, okay. And then one more map. Set of $0. Okay. Go down to disclosure. Oh, right. I want to go to fret.index. You could generate a list of all triple-digit combinations, positions. Yeah. So I mean, in DAD, the furthest you have to reach is from 2 below. Well, 4 to 5 to 7 is the normal biggest reach. 4, 5, 7. I mean, plus 1 diatonic, plus 2 diatonics, which can be 7 half notes. But it's a limited number. Yeah, well, that's clearly going to be tomorrow's problem, but yeah, we need to do something. That might be the way to go. Is figure out all the possible chord shapes that we can play with our hands, and then only match the ones that do it. But I don't want to. I don't want to embed the knowledge that the L-shaped is a standard shape, because it's only a standard shape in this tuning. So I think we've got to say what the constraints are. And I think the constraint is, you probably can't reach further than 7 half notes or something like that. Well, maybe it's 4, 5, 6, 4, 5, 7. That chord covers 4, 5, 6, and 7. That's probably as big of a stretch as you should do, is cover 4 diatonic notes. That might be a way to constrain it. And then within there are all these combinations. Okay. Well, I guess this was the return. Okay, so let's see. I'm taking. Oh no. Connect set of string of element to set of character. Okay. Check our progress here. These pipelines. He's an array of string. Oh, I just want to set on the outside of that. Okay, let's do it this way. Okay, so we take the tunings, we split them up, so we have each note separately, we turn that into a position, and then for each one of those positions, we're going to turn it into a list of named notes, and then map the whole thing. That's because it's 3 tunings, 3 strings, each one contains a list. We got array of string, flat map turns it into array of string, and then set a result. Okay, so it's a big leap of a refactoring, and I probably should have done it in halfway steps, but I think this should pass. Or I think maybe I shouldn't have erased my old one before doing it in halfway steps, but okay. Ta-da, I guess. Is this as understandable? I don't know. I don't mind the map notation, popping it through, but the frets.map in 18, 19, 20, going a level deeper, that's definitely getting a little tricky. In a way, I mean, I can break it up, and that maybe is better. So let's let string positions equals that, and then I can say string positions dot map. Result is map the string positions, which is D is 2, A is, I don't know, 8, something like that, and D is 2 again. Map each position. And then flat map the result. I don't know. Sometimes it helps to split up the pipelines. All right, make sure that's still a valid split. Okay, and then, I don't know, that's getting annoying. All right, so now this one, and I almost want to, let's name this to reflect that it has the notes, but we haven't said it has the chord. Okay, this is your probabilistic answer. I'm gonna change the name as we get more certain about it. Okay, but given DAD and short frets, do you have the major note chords for D? And the answer should be yes. All right, it should be yes, but it's going to be no because we always answer no. Okay, so the way I want to answer this is I want to say, well, let's keep it in here first. The major pattern is 0, 4, and 7. And that goes back to the keyboard we did first. So n plus 4 and 7, I'm just going to say turn into offsets from n is 0 plus 4 plus 7. And that's the half notes. Half steps. All right. And so what I'm going to answer is, I guess I'm going to answer notes. The note is a string. Okay, so we're going to turn that into a position. Note name position. Well, let position equals note name position for the incoming note. Okay, and then let let's let possible notes or valid notes is notes. Set of notes. Okay, and so we're going to say well, I guess we're kind of going to say for every pattern in there, if you take that position and this offset and you turn it into a note, is it in the valid notes? Okay, so this is sort of like major pattern dot all satisfy. I don't know if you've used this, but you give it a condition and that's what we're going to return. So is that right? Yeah. So I think if you take note name position of $0, well, I want to take this note name position. You're asking me for a, do you contain a D? Oh, so I don't even really need position there. Okay. All right, so note name position of this note with offset okay. Note name position oh, not a bool yet. Yeah. So this calculation gives you a position, right? Let's. Oh, we're still. Yeah. So note name's position of string. Oh, I gotta say plus. Yeah, plus the half steps gives me a note name position. Okay, so note name position of note plus offset gives me a position. And then I want to know if, well, let's get chord note equals this dot aim. Okay, so I'm going to take the note plus the offset and ask is all valid notes dot contains chord note. The autocomplete's getting in my way here. Okay, is that what I'm trying to say? Sure. Okay, so, I think valid notes is a better name for this then. Okay, and this I don't need. Okay, so there's my major pattern. All satisfy offset in. So I'm going to go through every offset. I'm going to get the chord note. I'm going to find out if I contain that chord note in my fretboard. And this does not check that they're on different strings. It just checks that. So I believe this should pass. Now the test we're doing is not going to be, well, is it? Is he right? Is he always going to be right? I guess he is. If we had 2 strings, it wouldn't. But if we have 3 strings, DAD, it's going to be. Okay. So let's commit this. So ChordChart can tell if a note, let's see, knows the valid notes and can tell if they can form a major chord. Okay. That is a start. Okay, so let's see what we, well, we're not drawing notes on a dulcimer. I guess we've made stuff for made note name position that can handle offsets, and I made chord chart that knows the valid notes for a given tuning and fret pattern and can answer whether that contains a major chord. Okay. Okay, so a chord chart. Let's pull this out. Now, the thing I'm not so happy, I feel like you're still not clear what number you have. Well, we're going back and forth between names and offsets. That's what's bugging me. I mean, there's worse things that could happen, but that's what's getting me. I don't know if that means we're lacking a concept of a note, but I think there's, well, when you think of the notes on a piano, you have multiple octaves of the same notes. Same on a dulcimer, just fewer octaves, maybe 3 octaves on a typical one. We have the concept of the note name, just C through B, and we have the concept of the note as a position and telling which octave and everything it's in. For things like chords, we don't care about the actual position as far as determining what's a valid chord. But when we draw it, we gotta care what octave we're drawing in. So there's definitely some mismatch there. And I wonder if the concept is really more like, what's your note? And I can ask you, what's your note name? And I can ask you, maybe even like, what's your note name position? Or I can ask you, what's your note? And you tell me the proper octave and all that. I don't know. Let's make sure this still runs. All right, but I think the next to-do is list the possible major chords for a given tuning and fret pattern. Okay, so I think all we're going to do is go through, we're going to and maybe draw a fretboard for each. Okay. As another step, but I think we'll list, we'll do that starting from starting from C and or starting from the lowest bass note. Yeah. So we're going to go back to the UI now with this bare minimum thing, and we're just going to iterate from some starting point. And if you have that chord in major, so if we start from C, do you have a C major chord in this fret pattern? If so, list out and say C major, and maybe put the dulcimer fretboard and then C major. And if you have C minor and so on, we do those, but we don't have that capability yet. But we would just list out the ones that have major chords on the dulcimer, given what we have so far. I think that's a reasonable starting point. It's not, you couldn't ship it. This is definitely lower than that least acceptable level, but you could ship it without listing them, and just show the fretboard. Even that's probably a step for some people, like they forget, which ones, they're going to count manually out. It might be useful, but I think getting this done will be much, much better. But I don't have to ship anything. I mean, again, I'm trying to get it beta tested a little bit. I can turn off these two, Maker Magic and ChordChart, and they can try all the other stuff we've done. There's nothing invalid about them. They may not be as fancy as you want, but they're working. And this one that's not even useful is probably not worth showing anybody at this point. Or, well, only friendly faces, not real users. Just beta users might be willing to look at it. So, yeah, we'll pick up there tomorrow. We'll go back to the UI, turn it into the list, and then we will start working on drawing those notes. Actually, we have to identify chords, identify chord shapes. Okay, so, and eventually also we need to check that the notes are available on all strings or something like that. We have to use all strings. Notes, let's say chords use all strings. Okay. All right. Well, I'm glad to start that. I think we've done the worst of the theory. I think we have a pattern. We could easily add minor chords with whatever the same approach is. And then this step to make that legitimate and identify them, and that those two almost come together if you can check them. I guess the easiest way to do this might be to do this, and it might omit a couple of weird chords that you couldn't reach anyway, but we don't care about them anyhow. We really care about the shapes. All right, well, thanks for coming along today, and I'll see you tomorrow, 2 to 4:30 Eastern Time, 7 to 9:30 p.m. UTC. Have a good evening. Bye-bye.